Hello, chess friends. This is Grandmaster Valeri Lilov, and in the lecture today, I would like to begin with something very interesting as an opening system that everybody can try, and it's personally one of my favorite in the open games, and it's the so-called King's Gambit. So the King's Gambit is happening after the first moves e4, e5, and f4, and has a reputation as being very interesting. So in general, the white main plan is to provoke black to give up his e5 pawn, and then once that pawn is exchanged, white can even play the move of d4 and set up some kind of very strong control and bring strong center on e4 and d4. So in general, that kind of plan has been used many times in the so-called romantic years in chess, when the great masters Anderssen, Morphy, and some others were playing. This means the beginning and, of course, the whole 19th century. So some of the great games in chess, some of the greatest games in chess in that age, the Romantic age, were played in the King's Gambit, and even now that gambit remains one of the most interesting responses after first e4 and e5, and I would like to present you some classical chess games that really put the background behind that opening, and then I'm going to tell you some of the modern approaches for white in that tremendous opening system. So in our first lecture, I would like to introduce to you the greatest game probably in the King's Gambit, and that's the so-called Immortal Game. So it was played in June 1851 in the English town of London, where actually an international tournament among some of the most important and, of course, strongest players took place there. So the chess players, Adolf Anderssen, who was the strongest player on his time, and the German master Kieseritzky, were playing in the town's cafe of the Divan in London, and basically that game took place in the evening of June 1851, and it was really very amazing. So I would like to present that game to you. Anderssen had the white pieces, and he played first e4, e5, and then f4, setting a problem to the black e5 pawn. Of course, black decided to recapture, and that is the so-called King's Gambit accepted. Basically, once black recaptures on f4, his main plan is to play something like queen to h4 check, which is pretty interesting. So once that queen goes there, the white king will be on a check. And after e takes f4, one very interesting system that was very popular in those years is the so-called Bishop's Gambit. So it goes when white plays the move of bishop to c4 here. The Bishop's Gambit was very popular during centuries, and it is very dangerous for black because it provides white with an idea to direct an immediate pressure against the f7 pawn, which is called the Achilles heel, a kind of chess term which is very interesting, born from the legend for the great Trojan warrior Achilles that actually was very strong, but he had one weak point, and it was his heel. So the Achilles heel in the black position, we call the f7 pawn, since it's very vulnerable, and the white light square bishop is really hanging there. So in fact, that's why bishop c4 becomes the most important move just in the 50 years of 19th century, and then it's being used by every great player: Anderssen, Morphy, Steinitz, Zukertort, and many other great players who really created masterpieces with that system. In the game, black played the move of queen h4 check here, which is considered to be not so good, because once the black queen goes there, no matter that this seems very logical and it's really goes with the usual idea that black has with f4. In that case, when we have bishop c4 played, it's not really making many problems to white. And most importantly, black is having some kind of big difficulties because of that queen, which will next move after the king will be threatened with something like knight f3. So instead of this move, the most popular continuation for black is c6 here, the variation chosen by many players and firstly suggested by the Russian player Karyanish. So the c6 and d5 idea that was very strong against the c4, bishop c4 move. However, in that move, black chose to play queen h4 check, and white played king to f1. Now, as you can see, white is deprived of castling, but the black queen on h4 is remaining in a really uncomfortable place. The centuries practice shows that, in fact, the second weakness, that is, which the black queen is staying on a bad square, is more uncomfortable, and definitely that early check from h4 on the king is not such a good idea. In fact, white has now knight f3 prepared. So for this reason, black decided to come up with a very interesting move, the move of b5. This is the idea of the French master Lionel Kieseritzky, with which he managed to achieve many victories. The modern theory, however, recommends that it's preferable for black to play d5 to sacrifice the pawn back in order to gain some tempos and develop his pieces with ease. Black had a similar to this idea when he played b5. The plan is to sacrifice that pawn in order to get the b7 square available for the bishop, from where it will actually put some problems to the white center pawn on e4, and that way he's going to get some good activities. However, it gives white some very strong resources, and as you will see in future, that kind of idea is not really very well accepted for black. White simply captured on the pawn, black played the move of knight f6, and now white continued with knight f3. We see that already black began to experience the problems with that queen. Now in this position, black decided to come up with the tricky move of queen h6. Now the question is that black sets his queen on a kind of good position, where it's not only supporting the f4 pawn, but also black has some plans of g5 and then even g4. So then the queen will be on a kind of backwards position, and it will be a kind of more difficult for white to prepare some attacks on that queen. So that's why queen h6 plays a good role. In this case, white decided to play d3, supporting the pawn on e4 and managing some kind of pressure on the f4 pawn, a kind of pin over there. So after d3, black decided to play the move of knight h5. Now I don't really agree with this move because it's breaking a principle. The major opening principle says that when you are away of development or you have some kind of problems in the opening, the most important thing that you should care about is very quickly to set up your pieces. Nothing else should be done before we have at least safer position of our king, like castles. So black is breaking that principle right now, and he's playing second move with the knight. As we can see, black already made 2 moves with the queen and 2 moves with the knight, which really mean that he's gonna be in trouble because of those lost tempos. The right move that black had was the move of bishop c5, preparing the castles, and then of course once that king is hidden, black can eventually propose some moves like bishop to b7, c6, and maybe once he plays d5 without even sacrificing a pawn, he can get a good position. Anyways, black played knight h5, and now white continued with the move of knight h4. A very interesting idea. White is releasing the diagonal for the queen, and in the same time, as you can see, the white knight will have really interesting possibilities on f5, attacking on the black queen over there. Also, as we can see, basically the white queen can go to an f3, and so then it will really put some problems to the black f4 pawn. After the move of knight h4, for this reason, black made the move of queen g5. So after the move of queen g5, actually black is attacking on the knight and the bishop in the same time, which seemed really very delicious for black. So after the move of queen to g5, black is putting threats on the b5 bishop and the knight from on h4. So white has to decide exactly what to do with them. However, it's a decisive mistake. Black plays a third time with a queen, and it's really like a very dangerous decision, very dangerous option. After the move of queen g5, white simply played the move of knight h4 at f5. Of course, now it seems that g6 will be really very good for black. However, we can simply see that this move is going to be a bad one, because white will simply get pawn up to h4, and once that queen is gone, it's not really going to put any kind of problem to the white bishop. So white can play even something like knight up to c3, and then if black takes that knight, we can just take the other. So black can't get any kind of dangerous material damages to white, and for this reason g6 is not really a strong move. After the move knight f5, black decided to comprehend his idea of d7 up to d5 and then a possible attack on the f5 knight. However, it doesn't really go so easy. After c6, white played the move of g4, an amazing move with which white is actually starting a successful strategy against the black position. White is making a threat on the h5 knight, and in the same time black can't really take en passant because of the queen on g5, which is undermined now by the white dark square bishop from c1. So the move of g4 seems really very strong, attacking on the knight. Black chose to play the move of knight f6 in this case, and white just played the move for g1, supporting the pawn on g4. So currently, as we can see, white has ideas like pawn h2 up to h4, and then once the queen goes away, the f4 pawn is going to be hit. So in fact, it's a very interesting idea that white is actually sacrificing a piece in that case. But in that case, the most important thing is not really that white will sacrifice pieces. The most important thing is to dominate in the center, and most importantly, to set as many pieces as he can around the center and right in front of the black kingside and area in the center. h4 was after rook g1, black played c6b, and h4 was played. So in this case, black simply brought his queen backwards on g6, but white continued with h5. The queen went forward, and here white continued with queen f3. The plan, as we can see, is just to capture the pawn on f4, after which the black queen will be trapped, actually, since there are no squares available. And this forces black to lose one more move and retreat his knight on the backwards position, which is really very dangerous. Knight g8 now was met by bishop takes to f4, and we see that white not only has a very good compensation of a couple of pawns for the piece sacrifice, but also he has a tremendous activity. Bishop takes to f4, queen f6, and in this position, white simply got the move of knight to c3. So what is the white major idea in this case? The major idea, as we can see, is to set that knight to d5 at the right time, and then there will be some threats like knight to c7, which will follow. So after knight c3, in order to try and avoid some kind of threats like those, black decided to get up his dark square bishop on c5. But then yet, white simply played knight to d5, attacking on the queen and hitting for knight c7 at the right time. Already we see that the black extra piece does not mean anything. In fact, most of his pieces are in initial positions, so it's not really so easy to say, okay, he's going to play his pieces this, because even an outline, a plan for development is going to take some more time. So after the move of knight to d5, actually, black played the move queen takes to b2. Some people know that basically when we are defending, sometimes we have to think about counterattack. So the best defense sometimes is the good offense. The black queen now creates a threat on the rook on a1, and this is not just like that, because once that queen takes there, the white rook on g1 will be hanging as well. So in fact, once that rook is gone, the other will be lost too. And for this reason, white has to be very careful now. It seems that if he goes with rook e1, black will just play knight a6, preventing some ideas like knight c7, and black position is not so dangerous. Most of the critical squares have been taken. So that's why queen takes to b2 seems good. And in this position, actually, it arises one of the most beautiful combinations in the whole chess history, and the tremendous play by Anderssen, which inspired the chess players from every generation. So after queen takes to b2, white played the move of bishop to takes to d6. The sacrifices combination begins, and white is actually heading for a very dangerous attack and an upcoming threats against the black king. So the first one starts with bishop d6. The plan is to actually take away all available squares except d8 on the black king and get some more pieces around that king side position. Bishop to d6. Steinitz said that black should have actually played something like the queen takes to a1 check in that case, and after king e2, something like queen b2 with some hopes of success. However, the modern analysis really say that still, even in this position, white could have get some very dangerous threats. Of course, as we can see now, black can't really take that rook with his queen because there is knight takes to g7 check, and then there is bishop c7 checkmate coming. So that's why actually after the move of bishop to d6, black has to decide exactly what to do, and the move that he should really choose is bishop takes to g1. That's what he did. So at least he takes the one rook, and he has the idea to threat the other with a check. If white decides to bring it somewhere, maybe even the bishop can go backwards, like after rook e1. Black can play something like bishop to b6, and it seems that all of the black pieces are still continuing to stay on its good positions, and the black position is solid. However, after bishop takes to g1, white continued with the tremendous move of e5. This move actually blocks the way, the path of the black queen to g7, and most importantly, that pawn is currently being hanging there. So the white knight has the threat to take it next move, and definitely then the black king will be checkmated maybe within the next few moves. The move of e5 really is one of the very dangerous quiet moves, which really uncovers the strategical idea behind the white whole strategy. And in fact, what white wants to do right now, and what is the main theme, is that white wants to isolate and basically to remove the mightiest of the black pieces, and that's actually the queen, away from the protection of the king. The move of e5 really puts a very dangerous threat on the g7 pawn. But what about if black simply takes, and after king e2, he plays knight a6 covering the c7 square, so that the white knight can't go there. In fact, if black tries to play something else, like bishop a6, white can even play knight c7, and after king d8, knight takes to a6, we see that there is a new threat upcoming on the rook on a8. So after the rook takes and queen takes to a6 check, the black king has no escape squares, and it's going to be checkmated, of course, next move. So for this reason, after the move of king to e2, knight a6 is not, bishop a6 is not working. But what about knight a6 now? It seems that knight c7 will be met by knight takes to c7, and in the same time, knight takes to g7 doesn't seem to be so dangerous, since after king d8, black is somehow keeping. And in that case, everything what black thought happened to be wrong, because the piece fist around the black king and his territory is becoming tremendous, and of course white can strike with an immediate checkmate just in 2 moves. Knight takes to g7, king d8, and now the most beautiful move of queen f6 check. The idea that white uses is deflection of the black knight on g8, which was actually defending the e7 square and the possibility for white to give a checkmate from there. So after queen f6, when the knight takes the queen, the bishop e7 is coming, and we have a checkmate with just 3 pieces around the black king. I think that the game is extraordinary, not only showing what is the power of the Kingside, the King's Gambit, but also it's showing some of the basic ideas of the attack. For instance, how we can introduce more pieces on the area where we are attacking, how the control of the center really gives us those strong threats and possibilities, and the time with which we actually continue and find to be very useful to make our threats before the opponent finds the possibilities to defend or maybe make his own ideas. So definitely these moves are connected with the ideas of piece fists, like more pieces included against the opponent's king side, which are very dangerous, and also isolation of the most important defenders that the opponent has. All of these teams are being connected in one, and basically White was able to promote this kind of very beautiful combination. A sacrifice of a queen, 2 rooks, a bishop, just in order to get forward and continue the attack. The Vienna chess master Ernst Vollber called this game the Immortal once he published it in the Wiener Schachzeitung magazine in 1855. So this game remained with that title even for our days, and it just shows the power of the King's Gambit and the amazing source of attacking possibilities when we are intending to include all of our pieces into the attack. Okay, so this is the first part in the King's Gambit and some of the most important and typical positional ideas for that system. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
This is Grandmaster Damian Lemos. First of all, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to receive more free chess videos from us, you can just click the subscribe button below. I would also highly recommend signing up for my free mail course, the 10 Grandmaster Secrets to Dominate Chess. During this exclusive course from onlinechesslessons.net, I'll share with you my own Grandmaster shortcuts to effective attacking, defending, and growth hacks to improving your chess without complicated books or memorization. So sign up by clicking the sidebar on the right, and I know you won't be disappointed. Once more, this is Damian for onlinechesslessons.net, and I'll see you in my videos. Thank you.